Um, Welcome everyone. We are everyone. Cool. Yes. Um, Now it should actually be working and everything's great. Or yeah. Um, yeah. So, all right. Let me just pull up chat on my phone before we get started in earnest, so I can see if anyone says anything. But so today, we are going to be looking at um, oh God, this is going to start playing on my phone. This is terrible. Um, let's see. Oh, we've gotten to the inception part of it. Um, let's just turn off the sound. Um, can I make this chat only? Or rather, how do I make this chat only? Because I definitely have done this before. Um, Chat only. Yes, good. We've done it. Thank you for bearing with me for that one as I figure stuff out. Cool. Um, so, um, as we were talking about before, what we're doing this time is we are going to be exploring cloud variables in Scratch. And so what's really cool about this is how you can start to um, make games that are multiplayer in that they can be played on two different computers, and the computers can communicate to each other, and stuff that shows up on, or like stuff that one player does on one computer will show up on the other computer. Um, and what we're going to be doing, uh, I've played around with this enough to know that what I'll be doing will feel kind of bad to play with. But we're just kind of doing a proof of concept of showing like, hey, you can get stuff on one computer to show up on the other computer. Um, and then um, you can think about how to make it feel better and smoother and all that stuff going forward. So one thing that we'll need to do is um, only only accounts that are Scratcher accounts are allowed to do this. So basically, when you make a variable over here, you need to see this like cloud variable thing, which is stored on the server. Um, and so I think accounts need to have existed for like a couple months for you to have this option, just because it is a little bit more expensive for Scratch to allow accounts to do this, and so they don't want people to just be able to make a million accounts and just um, have them flood their servers with these cloud variables and spend a bunch of money keeping track of them. So they just want to make sure that it takes a little bit of time to get there. So if you don't see this, just wait a little bit. Your account should eventually have this as you work in Scratch for it with a little bit. And in general, these variables will behave just like normal variables, just a little bit worse for most things that you're trying to do. So you're often best served by just it's often best to just not have the variables be cloud variables to begin with. But so what I'm going to do is just make two cloud variables to start with. I'm going to have cat x and cat y. And these are only numbers, not letters and symbols, and that's fine because um, the game that I'm planning on making is just a very simple one of allowing this cat to move around, and then separately having, I think I'm going to do a bat um, because they are artistically in the same style. So I'm going to have this bat and cat that you can move around and have it so someone on another computer, or in this case, me on a different web browser, is able to move the bat around um, somewhere else, and then we'll see it move around here for us. Um, so um, to get started, we're just going to figure out how we want um, we're just going to figure out how to make this cat move. And we're just going to start off by doing um, a standard not worrying about cloud variable stuff and just having it move. So what we want to do is want to say when we click, we actually might want to, we'll have it go to the bottom left corner of the screen, so we add that there. And then forever we want to say if we're pressing like up arrow, we want it to move. So this is in sensing, we're say if this key is pressed, and if this key is up arrow, then we're going to have it move up. So we want to say change the Y by, let's do 5 for now. So now if I'm running this, it starts there, and I press up, the cat starts going up. Cool. Then I'm just going to stop this from running and do it, and just make a bunch of copies of this. So this is going to be up and down, and when it's down, it's going to be -5. Then I'm going to do 2 more copies of this. Then here, instead of changing Y, we're going to change X because we're going to be doing left and right. So we're going to do 5 and -5, and that's for right arrow and left arrow. So now I can have it go in all sorts of ways, and it's great. It can get to the side of the screen, but then is done. So this allows our cat to move, but this is all at like the local computer. So if I'm doing this here and I go to another computer and look at this project, the cat might be at a different spot when I load it up on the different browser, because like Scratch keeps track of that. But then if I on that browser start moving the cat around, it won't show up on that other browser. And so we're trying to make it so it does show up there. So to do that, we need to use these cloud variable things. So what we want to do is say, in this, like basically we want the cat X and Y to represent where the cat, like the cat's X and Y of these things over here, which you probably can't see because I'm covering it up. Oops. What am I moving? Okay. Let me move myself to over here. Sure. And I'll try to remember not to use this space below me. Yeah, so we have this X and Y position of the cat that we're dealing with here. And what we want to do is have, so we have the cloud variables cat X and cat Y. And separately, we have the X position and Y position of the cat. And what we want to do is make sure that like the cat X position and the cat position, the cat X and the X position should always be in sync. And so when we change one of them, we want to change the other one. And so we could do that in here, but I think what I want to do is just to ensure that after any movement has occurred, that we resync the cat variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to, after we've done any movement that will have happened inside this forever loop based on the up arrow and down, or based on the arrow key presses, we're going to set the cat's X and Y position to what the X and Y position in this game is. So this hasn't actually changed how the cat behaves here, because we never update the X and Y position of the cat to the cloud variables that we're updating. Like now we are changing these variables, and I should make sure that this is cat Y and not cat X. Yeah, so we're doing that. And then the other thing we want to do is say, before we check to see what arrow keys we've pressed, we want to make sure that the X and Y position of the cat on our screen matches the x and y position that the cloud variables think. So what you can think of, sort of the way that you can think of this is saying that um, the cloud, or like the server, has the true state of the game. It truly knows where the cat's x and y positions are. And when we're moving around in here, we every time we want to move, we want to ask the cloud, "Hey cloud, where do you think the cat is?" Then we're going to put the cat at that position. Then we're going to move it um, however we want to move it based on what arrow keys we're pressing. And then after that, we're going to tell the cloud, tell the server, hey cloud, the cat is now at this position that I've just calculated on my iMachine, or on this scratch window. And so this sort of concept is are the fundamental building blocks of networking and doing multiplayer games in this. So when we run this, we can now move stuff around. And the cool thing is up here you can see that the cat x and cat y variables are the same as these numbers over here. It also it feels a little weird because oftentimes when I'm can I see that? Yeah. So like when I'm holding down up or down, especially up, which is odd that the things are different. Sometimes when I let go of it, it like goes up another like 5 or 10 steps and then jumps back down. And so I think what that's happening is means that it takes longer for like it tells the server to update the position to a new spot, but then it pulls it back to another spot before those updates go through, or something weird is happening there that we don't have a huge amount of control over, as far as I am aware. I'm just going to update this to be round numbers because it makes me feel better to look at round numbers here. So then when I do this, oh, right, right, because I'm setting, I say I'm going to these positions, and then immediately after that, I'm setting x and y to whatever is in the cloud variables at the moment. So I think what that means is that we need to set the x and y variables here. Actually, wait, I'm going to be somewhat lazy and just copy these two things and put them up where I want them. So that's up here. And now when I start it, it goes over there, and now these numbers are nice, even numbers of 5s, which I appreciate. Yeah, so that is, that's our initial, wait, interesting. I didn't think that that would work, but it does, cool. Because, actually, let's just, I'd prefer for people not to be able to drag it around, so I think we can say there's some thing that you can do with this. Is that really in looks? Maybe it's in sensing. There's, all right, set drag mode to not draggable, where I just want to ensure that everything is easy. So now maybe if I'm in, I just keep on thinking that I know what's happening, and then I don't. Okay, we're gonna make sure this is saved, see the project page, and now I can't drag this around, but I can't drag this around either. Oh well, whatever. That's good enough for now. So yeah, so now the cat is correctly controllable by the arrow keys. And I'm going to do something fancy that I hope will work. So I'm going to make that smaller, go to this, and then this thing, if I'm running it, I think I need to reload this page, is my guess. Yeah, cool. So now I have these two things that exist. Let's scroll over there so you can see both of them. So this is basically two copies of the same game, but they're in two different browser windows. So I'm going to click on this one on the right, and when I'm doing this, it shouldn't. If we didn't use cloud variables, it shouldn't do anything to the things on the left. But so I move the thing on the right, and it feels really odd. But we see that it's actually moving the thing on the left as well. And so, as you can see, it's pretty jumpy for what is able to, like, when I'm moving it, it jumps around a lot. So we're going to work on fixing that in a second. But this has shown our proof of concept in that when I control the sprite on the right side, the sprite on the left side still moves around even if it's not super smooth. So we've shown that we can, like, these browsers happen to both be on my computer, but they could be on different computers, and it would still behave exactly the same. So that's where we're going for now. Does that break everything? It does not. Cool. Okay, we're just gonna stay in this then and call it good. Yeah. Yes, I can move this over to be a little bit less in the way. Yeah. Okay. So, so where do we go from here? So the first thing I want to do is try to fix the way where, like, if one of them is moving, it like jumps back to the other one. And so I believe the reason why that is happening is because sometimes when you're pressing the right arrow key here, when you press the right arrow key, it picks up, we're setting the X position, we're making it move 5 to the right, and then we're writing the X position back to the cloud. But in that time, or if we are writing to the cloud now, so if we're about to write to the cloud, and the other game, which is also doing this forever loop, is in here, where it's checking to see if arrow keys are pressed. None of them are pressed because there isn't anyone there. But then if it's doing its thing, then it will write its position that didn't move back to the cloud, and then that's I think what is causing us to like have this like stuttering thing, because we have the browser on the left is saying, hey, the cat is standing still, and the browser on the right is saying the cat is moving to the right, and the cloud doesn't know which one of them to believe because it's getting mixed signals. And what we need to do is basically say, if you're not the one controlling the cat, don't be telling the server don't be telling the cloud anything. So what I'm going to do is add another cloud variable, where I'm going to say this is a cloud variable, and this is saying cat control. And so what I'm going to do is oh wait, no, this doesn't want to be a cloud variable. Let's delete that. What we're doing is making a cat control as a local variable. And so what we're going to do is saying, if we're controlling the cat, this variable is going to be 1. If we're not controlling the cat, it's going to be 0. And what we're going to do is add an event that says when I click on the cat, we're going to say that we are now controlling the cat. So set cat control to 0, and what that means is I should probably set cat control. Oops, I should set cat control to 0 at the beginning of the game when we start it. And then in here, what we can do is have control where we say if cat control is equal to 1, then we are allowed to control the cat. But if it's not equal to 1, so if it's equal to 0, we can't do anything. So we want to control stuff by this. But I think the key part is that regardless of if we're controlling, like, we want to always, before we do any of this, set the cat's X and Y to whatever the cloud thinks that the cat's position is. But then we only move the cat and then reset the cat's position if we are currently controlling the cat. So currently, as the code's written, I can press the arrow keys and nothing's going to happen because we're not controlling the cat, because cat control is 0. Then I'm going to click the cat. Cat control goes up to 1, and now we're going to go to this other thing. What I'm doing here is just stopping stopping this game on the other browser because it's still writing. It's still writing to the cloud. So now, once I did that, we're back to having approximate control over the cat, where there's still occasional hiccups, but it is not terrible. And yeah, so we now have control over the cat. And then if so I'm going to stop this. I'm going to restart it. So the cat's there. I'm going to take this back to this view. So now we can properly see this here. I'm going to reload this game because you need to reload it to get the new code. And then I can run this, where now this sees cat control here. So now I'm going to control the cat on the right game. And as I do this, the cat on the right game is controlling well, and the cat on the left game is very stuttery, but it's not. It's still working. It's still following where it's going on the right game, and the right game feels okay to move around with. So we have that going. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go back to this thing and maximize it so I can see what I'm doing. Everything is okay. And yeah. So what do we want to do now? Now I think we want to just copy all this code over for the bat. So I'm just going to stop this for now. I'm going to copy all this stuff over to there. And we're going to have to change a bunch of, we're going to make 3 new variables. We're going to make bat control, and then we're going to make the bat X and bat Y on the cloud, and on the cloud. And then just all of these cats are turning into bats is, I think, the main thing that I need to do here, which is not particularly fun. I guess this is going to be 150 and 100. Cats are turning into bats. And so we need to do all of this to make this work, because otherwise everything would be messed up. Yeah, so we're doing bat X, bat Y. We're doing, oh wait, no, X and Y position don't need to be changed. So we have X position, Y position. And so now I can control I didn't make this start running. So we're starting it running. I can now control the cat, and I can now control the bat, where now they're both under the same control. Where now we just kind of want to make it so you can only, so now you can control both of them, but we want to make sure that me on my end, I'm only allowed to control one of them. And then the other thing we want to do is make sure that the cloud knows that if me on this computer right now is controlling the cat, that no one else that's playing on another browser is allowed to control the cat as well. So those are the sort of two things that we're going to be working on now. So I'm going to start this back up. And I think what this is going to do is just have a lot of logic happening in the when the sprite is clicked of saying when you click the cat, you need to make sure that you need to make sure a couple of things. So we're saying we probably are just going to have a very ugly if statement in here. So we're saying if, let's see, yeah, so we want to say if bat control is equal to 0, then we want to set it equal to 1. Actually, let's just make this an if else. So basically what I'm going to be doing here is saying if a bunch of conditions are true, then we're going to be controlling the cat, or controlling the bat, because we're working with the bat now. Otherwise, we're going to say that we're not controlling the bat. So we're setting bat control to 0 otherwise. And we're just going to be adding more and more conditions to this as we think through this. So I'm going to actually make one more cloud variable for this, where I'm going to say that is controlled. And that's ugly. I'm going to do that is controlled, so it's a little bit more readable. When we start the game, we're going to set bat is controlled to 0. When we set bat control to 1, we're also going to set bat is controlled to 1. And that's telling the server, hey, I'm now controlling the bat. Please don't let anyone else control the bat. So that means in here, if someone else is, when we click on the bat and ask to get control of it, we need to say, if we don't currently have control of the bat, and no one else currently has control of the bat. So that's saying, actually, yes, we need to be in operators first, and we're saying, and bat is controlled is equal to 0. 0, not 9. Yeah, so we're saying if we don't control the bat and no one else controls the bat, then we get control of the bat, and we tell the cloud that we are controlling the bat, so no one else should be able to. Else, we're saying we're not controlling the bat. So this is also what this does is if we so when I start the game, bat control and bat is controlled is equal to 0. Yikes! I think this should not be true because yeah, I'll explain that in a second. But so now we're saying when we click the bat, so we're saying that no one is controlling the bat, because bat is controlled to 0, and bat control, which is we're controlling the bat. Actually, let me just rename this to we control bat. Yeah. So if we do not control the bat and no one else controls the bat, then we're saying that we now we should control the bat, and no one else should. If either of these are not true, then we will not be controlling the bat after this. But we want to think about, we want to add another if statement about the bat is controlled, where we're going to say if, so this is, maybe I should just go back to having this be a thing. Want to, or so like, basically the way that we can think about this is that we control bat can be 0 or 1, and bat is controlled could be 0 or 1. We never want to say that we control bat is 1 and bat is controlled as 0, because that's saying we're controlling it, but the cloud thinks that no one is controlling it. So if let's see, so we kind of want to handle 3 cases. Yeah, where we want to say if they're both 0, then we get it. If, let's see, actually no, I can just copy this. So I'm going to copy this and say if we control bat as 0, but someone else is controlling bat, then we don't want to do anything. We want to let the bat stay controlled. But if yeah, so if this is the case, we want to, if we don't control the bat and someone else controls the bat, then we just are fine with this. We basically say, oh no, maybe that's what we should do. If this is the case, we say the bat should say to us, which isn't going to say to someone else, someone else is controlling the bat. And give them 4 seconds to see that. And then this is already 0, so that's fine. And then the other thing we can say is if we control the bat and the bat is already controlled. So this is basically saying if we control this thing and the server and the cloud agrees that we control it, if we click it again, we want to give up control of it. So if we're doing that, we're going to set we control bat to 0. We also want to set bat is controlled to 0. So this is saying we're relinquishing control of this, and someone else can control the bat now. And the last thing I want to do is say if Scratch, why do you got to do it to me? Okay, because I want it there and there. So yeah, so up here, what I'm going to be asking is saying if we control bat is 1 and bat is controlled is 0, I think that this should never happen. So what I'm just going to do is, I'm going to say a lot of exclamation points, and that is just something went wrong. Or actually, we can say something is wrong with the bat control. And yeah, so now we control bat, and bat is controlled. So we're allowed to move the bat around. And I click this again. Both of these go back to 0. And now when I press arrow keys, nothing happens. So that's good. And if I click it again, it goes back to 1, 1. I guess I should test this. So I'm going to go back to this I'm going to reload this page. And now the bat is in a place. I probably don't actually want this to start at a position, because when someone else starts up the game, things jump around. But the cool thing here is we see on the left, we see that we control bat is 1 and bat is controlled as 1. So that means the person on the left is controlling the bat. The person on the right sees that we control bat as 0 and bat is controlled as 1. So that means when I click on this, it should say someone else has the bat. And it does. Hooray. And now when we hit arrow keys, nothing's happening. So cool. This is a way to make it so only one person is allowed to control the bat at a time. It's possible that if 2 people click on the bat, like at the exact same second, something might break, but that's something to deal with later on. So I'm going to stop this one from running, remaximize this, and get back to work. Oh, right, because the other thing I wanted to add in was saying if we control the cat, then we're not allowed to control the bat. So I guess what I can do is add an if statement around this whole thing, which is getting fairly messy, but we want to ask if we control cat, which I need to rename, we control cat. We control cat is equal to 0, then we're allowed to do this. So what this is saying is, oh, this is bat. I want this to be cat. If we control cat is equal to 0, then we're allowed to do this. So this is saying, if we already control the cat, we're not allowed to ask for control of the bat. You can only have one thing at a time. So I guess I should make this an if-else. So this all goes in there, this thing goes there, we get rid of this if statement, and then if we control cat at 0, we do that. Otherwise, say, have the error message essentially of you already control the cat. You can't also control the bat. That's enough text that I want to give it 5 seconds to read. And now we're going to uncontrol the bat. We're going to control the cat. And when I click this, it says you already control the cat. You can't also control the bat. Hooray. Yeah, and so now what I want to do is just copy all of this into the bat and switch all of the variable names. And that is a pain, but we're going to do it. So I'm just going to take this, throw it into the cat. The cat has all of this stuff. I'm going to get rid of the basic one and then take this somewhat monstrosity of code that we have and swap it all out. So we're saying, I guess we need to make cat is controlled as a cloud variable. And then we're just going to swap all of this. So swap cat to bat, because this is saying if we don't have the if we have the bat, we're allowed to try to get the cat. Otherwise, everything needs to swap. So then we're saying if this is bat to cat, yeah, because now we just want everything in here to be the cat. Cat is controlled. Control bat. Or no, swapping it to cat. Maybe I should have chosen names that didn't rhyme. Like, it feels so nice to say things that rhyme when there's the game about the bat and the cat. And then I try to do all this stuff, and I just have a good chance of screwing something up at this point. Your bat is controlled is the cloud variable up here. And then in here, we need to switch all of these to the cat. So we control cat. Cat is controlled. Um, cat is controlled. We control cat. And then in here, yes, we're going to switch all the things in here to talk about the cat as opposed to the bat. In the hat, cat. Mrs. You already control the bat. You can't control the cat. Cool. Oh, and you probably couldn't see that last bit, but I'm hopefully what I'm doing all makes sense from what I did for the previous stuff. So then I think what I want to do is also just not at the beginning of the game, I'm not actually going to change the position of the cat or the bat, just so when someone else starts up the game, it doesn't mess with where things are on your screen, because you're writing where you think the bat and the cat are. Or I guess you're not, but if you're controlling them, you're telling the cloud where you think they should be, and if you're not controlling them, they're not moving, so who cares? And so yeah, I think this now is somewhat stable in that I don't think two people should be able to control the same thing at a time. So what I'm going to do is, actually I'm just going to go to the project page for this. So we see both of them. We do in fact see both of them. I'm going to reload this one on the right to make sure that we have the updated code, which has like a million variables over here. Cool. And then here I'm going to control this thing on the right. The cool thing is you can see over here on the left, the value changed, which is great. So now when I'm over on the right, I can move the cat around, and the cat on the left moves around a little bit jerkily, but it certainly comes through. Now on the right, I'm going to try to grab the bat. It says, you already have the cat, you can't have the bat. Oh, interesting. But yeah, and that didn't change any of these variables, didn't change any of the variables here. Over here, I'm going to try to click on the cat, and it says someone else is controlling the cat. And so it didn't change any of the variables, so we can't have them. But now I'm going to try to control the bat here. That succeeded silently, so now I can control the bat over here on the left. And I can control the cat over here on the right. Yeah, so that seems pretty great. I think I'm happy with this. I'm gonna go back to this guy. And also the cool thing is now I don't need to, since there's a locking mechanism on who's controlling what, I don't need to stop the other game. Like the other game's still running. And I can just control the bat here, and I'll never be able to control the cat from this. Oh, that's what the problem is. If I stop the other game, no one will control the cat, but the cloud will think that someone's controlling the cat because it's not. It's not, or the thing that is controlling the cat no longer exists because it's over here. So yeah, I guess what that means is we would like to say when the game stops, set the if we have the bat and bat, we should set we control bat and bat is controlled to 0 before we are allowed to click on the red flag. But Scratch doesn't really allow us to do that, so we're just going to have to do that manually. So I'm going to like click on this and then go back to see inside. And how do I want to deal with that? I think I'm going to, so the first thing I'm going to do is just uncheck all of these boxes because there were just a lot of them, and I think they serve their purpose. We sort of know what was happening with them, and so we're happy with that. Excuse me. So I think what I'm going to do is just a kind of messy solution of just have a ball that goes up here. And basically what I'm just going to say is when you click the ball, it makes everyone, it sets all sprites to be uncontrolled, so we're allowed to reset things. So we want to say an event of when this ball is clicked, we set bat is controlled and cat is controlled to 0. And I suppose what that means is in here, we want to say if someone clicks the ball, it should make us lose control of the bat and the cat. So what we should do here is say, if we control the bat, the first thing that we want to do is check to see if the server thinks that we control the bat. Basically, if someone clicked on the ball, then we're basically going to be forced to give up control of the bat. So what we're going to ask is if the cloud variable for the bat is 0. So if the cloud thinks that no one is controlling the bat, then we want to we are forced to essentially relinquish control of the bat. So we control bat is set equal to 0 here. Actually, I guess this should be an if-else. So here, this is if-else, where we have if the bat is controlled, we set it equal to 0. Otherwise, we do all this stuff. Yeah, and then we want to do the same thing for the cat. So in here, we're adding an if-else in the whole thing here. Because this is supposed to be in the else, and we're saying if we think we control the cat, but the server disagrees with us, if the server thinks that no one controls the cat, then the server is always right, because someone else must have reset the game. So we no longer control the cat, and then we're good with that. So now someone else is already controlling the cat. No, they're not. So I'm going to click on the ball, which should reset that. And now when I click on this, now I have control of the cat. Oh, right. The other server. What am I doing? So this still has the old code running. So we can stop this. We can reload this page. And now, when I run this, yeah, so on the right, when I hit arrow keys, nothing happens. When I click on the bat, when I click on the cat, someone else is controlling the cat. If I click on the ball, it should reset everything. I click on the bat, I can't control it. I click on the cat. Ooh, it says I already control this, but I don't. Something's gone wrong. So I'm going to stop this. We're going to go back to our actual code and see what's going on with the bat. I may have, if we control bat as 1. Actually, I guess what we're doing for this debug is just accept that I had hubris before and return on all the variables that I turned off before, because I want to be able to see what's actually going on. So currently all of them are 0. If I do that and have the bat, I should control this. So now when I move arrow keys, it moves properly. It's a little glitchy, but is probably fine. Who knows? So that seems okay. I'm then gonna click on this. I'm gonna pull the ball over to the right so we can actually see it behind the variables. And we're gonna click on the cat. So now we control the cat. This seems fine. I haven't changed the code, and it seems like I think it should be working now. So I'm gonna go back to project page so we can see the whole thing. I'm gonna reload this one over here to update the code. And now we're gonna see things. We see that the cat is controlled. Now, if we click on this, we control the bat. We can move the bat around. It moves on the other one. If I reset this, okay, yeah. So it took a while for bat is controlled to go back to 0 here, but it did eventually without me clicking on the ball here. So then once that happens, now I can click on the cat here, the bat there, and we see that the cloud variables match up because they should, and the local variables of this particular browser controls it, are the opposite. So this one on the left controls the cat, this one on the right controls the bat, and everything is right in the world. So then if I'm moving this, it's doing that. And, oh right, because I clicked on the bat, so it gave up control. And we control the bat, and everything seems fine. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave with that. Actually, yes, I'm gonna put a date on this. This is 4/29 that I'm streaming on. I'm gonna see inside and just turn off all of the variables because actually let's leave on the we control things. And I guess I can move these up to the top to be a little more out of the way, hopefully, just to make it feel a little nicer. Right. Okay, yeah. Sure. So that is what I have for you guys today. I feel like I learned a decent amount with this stream, which is great. Is a bunch of fun for me, and is what we're hoping for, and that we hope that these teach everyone, and I'm no exception. And some of the things that you see in this, if you've played online games, you might have seen stuff like this happening. Of like, especially like if you're controlling the bat on the right, to the person on the right, this bat looks completely reasonable and like is moving okay. The person on the left is like, that bat is lagging very hard, and so that and like it's stuttering, it's taking a while to move, and that's sort of what you can see when it takes a while to update stuff from the cloud. So maybe that could be the person that made the game did it in Scratch, and Scratch takes a while to update stuff, or maybe someone's internet is taking a long time to update things. But so this hopefully gives you sort of an idea of why these things can what am I saying? This hopefully gives you an idea of why these issues that you see with stuff online, why these things sort of happen. This is sort of, there's the local browser, the local client is often what the network people say, is saying, even if your machine is running and looks great, it being able to communicate that to other computers or machines or devices or whatever can have issues, and that will make it look bad for other people, even if it looks fine for you. And that's just something you need to like. There's not a very obvious and easy solution to that, and like you need something more powerful than Scratch in order to dive into it. Or actually, that's probably not true. I've seen Scratch games that are able to do multiplayer games much better than this, and I don't completely understand how they do that. But I'm sure they do stuff along these lines, but they probably like asking this is asking and setting the server what the X and Y positions are um, every time the game updates, which is like 30, maybe 60 times a second. And that's a lot of stuff to be transmitting, especially if you're asking for more than just the X and Y position. Um, so maybe it might be a good idea to ask for this, um, ask for this less frequently, and then assume and basically recompute what's happening on other people's computers on your own is a way of dealing with this that people often that often comes up. I also am not I'm not really a network engineer, as I learned things during this stream, and I think people that know what's happening with networking would sleep their way through this stream in 5 minutes and be able to implement all of this stuff very easily. Where for me, I was kind of feeling my way through it, which is fun to do and hopefully is useful for everyone else to understand the thought process behind doing this, but may not be completely necessary every time. But anyway, um, that's what I have today. Let me know what you think. If if this was helpful and you want to see more stuff like this, feel free to follow this channel. It should be like a heart button in the top right, and that helps out a good bit. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, and hope to see you next time. As Trek will be streaming Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern time on this Saturday, which is the some number, the 2nd, yeah, May 2nd. And so hope you check that out if you're interested, and see you next time.